Hi, everybody. It's another Tuesday evening, and you are here with us on the Our Turf Football Podcast. It's a pleasure to have y'all with us. We've got Kate over here, Cleveland Kate. We've got Lisa down below. Lisa, how are you, Lisa?
Good. What's going on? You guys are three amigos tonight.
We got the three amigos. Dana's away, so the ladies will play. We'll try and be good. We'll try and keep us,
On time.
collected. But you know how we do.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, welcome to the Artur Football Podcast. We are so glad to have you all. Um, the season's right around the corner, but we can't start any podcast off without shouting out donkeys straight out
Straight
of
out of
Camden.
Camden, baby.
3 locations
Great.
in Camden, Medford, Mount Holly.
I love it. I love it. They sponsoring us again for the fourth year. We are so thankful, so glad to see them. And yes, Camden is speaking Spanish right now.
Nailed it,
Day of the
Camden.
Dead.
Yes.
Is that Day of
It's
the Dead,
cut day.
Camden?
Today is the NFL's Dia de los Muertos. Brilliant.
Los Muertos. Yes. Any surprises,
good.
ladies? Any surprises?
Yeah, speaking of cuts, I didn't see anything that shocked me. I mean,
I
we
went
all
through
knew
it,
Bailey Zappi was
Yes.
not long. Hey, Kristen. Kristen's
Hey,
back.
Kristen.
Yeah. Who else? Who did Kansas City let go?
Well, we knew the wide
Harris
receiver
County.
was going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think they had said they tried to shop him around and pretty much couldn't get anything for him. So they just flat out released him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, that's just meh was today. I was worried about, aside from the fact that there were like 8 million tweets, because all of the big NFL guys were tweeting them one
at a time. Yeah.
At a time. I'm like, come on. I loved it when Dana said, I'm just going to tweet the tracker and people can go look at the tracker. And I'm like, brilliant, because don't nobody want 8,000 tweets, one person at a time. But it wasn't a big day as far as shocking. There was no splash. There was no. Oh my God. It was pretty chill compared to other years where we've had some real surprises on cut day.
Right.
Agreed. I think everything made sense. I don't even know. I was going to say, I think the one kind of thing that made me go, was a couple days ago when they sent Malik Willis to Green Bay. Yeah, that was probably the biggest, like, ooh, okay. But outside of that, that was it.
That was really a trade, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't an actual cut.
Right. And it brings interest in, because when you look around the league, Detroit got rid of their one of their backup quarterbacks and went with the new kid. So there's going to be a couple of new backups in the league. The Dolphins released Mike White, the veteran, and went with Skylar Thompson. So there's some interesting things going on, like, Patriots still with what's going on up there with Brissett. He injured his shoulder. Everybody's anticipating he'll be the week one, but it just seems that he's on a short string now. It seems like he'll have a lot of pressure on him. And we had talked about this in Pittsburgh, where, you have to go with Russell, because you can pull Russell and put Fields in. We've talked about that. You can't do the Fields. And I think the Patriots are going to do the same thing. They're going to start with Brissett, and I think he's going to be on a short leash. I think that any game that he struggles, they pull him and they're going to put that kid in, and you're not going to be able to look back. It's going to be his team at that time. So it's interesting to see some of the teams, like the Lions will have a new backup, and, with Jared Goff and Goff it's going to be interesting, because there's a couple teams that have some new backup quarterbacks.
Well, and the Packers needed someone really competent to sit behind Jordan Love. And I think Malik Willis needed a new start. Things just didn't go well for him in Tennessee. I don't know what was going on with Vrabel pulling him, and just whatever that was. That kid had a lot of talent in college. So maybe getting a fresh start in Green Bay and getting to sit behind Jordan. Hopefully he won't get to play, right? We can say that about all of these backups. Hopefully those starters will stay healthy.
Right, exactly.
And they won't need to play. But Green Bay needed somebody better on the bench than what they had. So he is now their number 2. And we'll see how it goes.
Agreed. Got a couple comments here. Darcy, our friend. Yes, the purge of the Rivera draft picks continue. And, I think something like that has to happen,
Me too.
unfortunately. It has to happen when you bring in new people and it's a new vision. So, yeah, hopefully it is a good, clean start out there in Washington. So that's good. And then Kristen brings up the trade from the Rams and Ernest Jones. That's another one. But again, trade, not necessarily cut, but still purging, remodeling, renewing, those types of things. Yep. Okay, so Lisa should be happy because we did get to talk about some quarterbacks tonight.
Just should be happy, Lisa. It's a something that they were talking about, and I was kind of paying attention today about the change in and how much these teams, like you said, are going. And Kate brought up a good point with Grable. The new coaches, old regime. He just wasn't. Obviously, he didn't fit the new regime. So it's not a player they drafted. It's not a player, I'm sure, they appreciate his talent and stuff like that. So fresh starts for all these guys. And even on their part, you got to think that it's like, okay, this wasn't the coaching staff that brought me in. So it's got to feel good for them to go get a fresh start, new start, clean slate. So I think the trades are all good for both player and the organization.
I mean, in my mind, the trade's almost better than being drafted because you're going to get drafted, especially at quarterback. You're going to get drafted by a team in the top of the draft that's in bad shape.
Right.
Whereas if you get traded, the team that's taking you probably has an offense that you would fit in with better without your original team having to make a whole bunch of moves to build around you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of these guys that got moved around in that way, they may be backups now, but I think they will fit better. And when they will play better. If they actually get onto the field this year. So ultimately, I agree with you, Lisa. I think it's a good thing. The fresh start, I think, in a better fit is really something we can look at with all these guys.
Agreed.
Right. Exactly.
Agreed. Yep. So like I said, we talked our quarterbacks. Now it's time to talk about the other rookies that aren't quarterbacks. Quarterbacks plenty of love. I'm giving Lisa a hard time because she wants to talk quarterbacks. You know that.
I'm biting at the bit. I'm trying to behave.
Ooh, good question. Will the 49ers trade Mr. Ayuk?
No.
Hi, Bob.
I don't think so.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, if they hadn't gotten it done by now, then they're not going to get it done. They're asking for too much is all I can figure. They're going to find a way to make him happy and keep him. I feel like it would have been done by now.
Well, here's a question, and it's not quarterback related. Does the CeeDee Lamb signing affect this?
Yes. Because if there were teams thinking Brandon's a little bit difficult, we'll make a play for CD, but then CD signed, now he's out of the mix. It'll be the first few weeks will be interesting because if anybody gets hurt, if any of the big name wide receivers get hurt, because didn't nobody play in the preseason? Nobody played. Because we didn't have any of those preseason. We used to always talk about doing our fantasy draft after preseason was over to make sure everybody was healthy to get to the regular season. And didn't nobody play this year. So I think it thins the level of talent that's available that people will make a move on. But you're right. With CD re-signing with the Cowboys, I will get to see him in Cleveland. Thank you. Week 1. But any of those teams who had made offers before and then their offer wasn't enough might be rethinking that and going, maybe we can do a little more of a higher trade pick, a number 1 or something like that to get a hold of him. I think we'll know this week. I think by the end of the week, they're going to want to get it done so he can get where he needs to go and have some time to practice before we start.
Agreed. Yeah. If they're going to let him go, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But you got to think with the money signed and the CC signed, he's going to command something close to that or, stuff like that. So that's kind of I was wondering. Yep. And when you look at Kansas City, and I found it funny because when we talked about preseasons and that was one of the things we always did smart. We always set our drafts a week before the season. And just like I said, because there are some people I saw today that actually drafted Tony from the Kansas City wide receiver, especially if you had an auto draft, because they still had him ranked
Yep.
So a lot of people got this guy on their roster. So I started laughing.
And
I was like, that's one of the first things.
Yeah, and they got him in like
seventh,
8th round, not at the end of the draft. So we had our turf one last night.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I did well. I'm happy with my picks. Lisa
I'm
taught me everything I
thrilled
know
with my
about drafting for fantasy. I was picking 8th out of 10 teams.
Who'd you get?
So I took Jamar Chase at number 8, and then I took Pat Mahomes at number 12 as it went around the corner. And I'm like, all right, I got my number 1 wide receiver, number 1 quarterback. Now let me go find a running back, because at that point, I ended up getting Nick Chubb in one of the later rounds, and people are afraid of him. The Browns are going to have him on the PUP list for 4 weeks just to make sure he's okay. I am telling you, his production, he will get as many points for me weeks 5 through 17 as anybody else would have. So, and that's one of the things I love about the our turf draft is I'm drafting against people from all over the country. When I draft in my Cleveland leagues, Myles Garrett goes, Nick Chubb goes, like everybody, Amari Cooper goes, like all the Browns go in the first couple rounds. The average draft position is blown because we're such homers. And in that league, I could wait and take Nick at a place that made sense, knowing that he'll be fine and I'll get my points. And I didn't have to worry about someone jumping in and grabbing him. Although Dog Pound Girl, I thought might have been close. She took the Browns defense, but I got Myles as my defensive player late. So anyway.
Very good. That was good. Okay. Let's get back to our agenda.
You can't let me and Lisa go, Sonia. You got to rein us in.
Okay. You know I don't care. Anyways, so let's talk about the rookies that aren't quarterbacks, okay? Why was I just about to say the Jaden Daniels of the world?
Once again, we're going right to quarterbacks. You see how I suck you in? I just suck it in. It's just like, keep going.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about Jaden Daniels.
No, not Jaden Daniels. The Malik Neighbors of the world.
Then we can talk about Roma Dunze.
Yes.
Because they are both rookies with rookie quarterbacks.
Wow. That's interesting.
So if we don't talk about the quarterback, we still have to talk about the quarterback because these wide receivers are going to live and die by what those quarterbacks do.
Agreed wholeheartedly, especially Mr. Rome. And I think
would love to see
road. Go ahead, Lise.
I would love to see a stat. I wonder, like, if it benefits the quarterback and the rookie to start together. You know, the rookie quarterback and the rookie wide receiver. If it's something that, you know, we build on every game to get that rapport. And if, you know, you can get like a Steve Young or a Joe Montana to Jerry Rice type scenario.
So ask me that in the off season or a year from now, because what we can do is we can take Trevor Lawrence and we can take Joe Burrow, who got what I called their whoobies for their second years. They got guys that were a year behind them in college that played with them in college and came to join their teams, as opposed to these guys who are starting out as rookies together. I want to compare those to see how they do. Are you better waiting a year to get that wide receiver for your quarterback or having them start and build together? I think in Chicago, it's going to be really good. I think with Malik, it could be talent-wise, but that the rest of that team has some issues that may affect how well the offense plays.
I'm a little nervous about Malik. I don't trust Daniel Jones. I think he's streaky at best. And so I think Malik has the talent. He obviously has the talent to do that, to be a wonderful wide receiver, but he's got Daniel Jones throwing to him. And what headspace is he going to be in? What kind of player is he going to be? And I don't know if we're going to see the Daniel Jones that they signed that huge contract to. I don't think we're going to see that this year. Malik is going to be great, and I think he's going to get frustrated. That's just me, though. That's my thoughts.
No, I don't disagree. I'm still not sure why they paid him that money, but we'll see.
Exactly.
You know, there are also, aside from offense, there are a couple edge rushers, a couple rookies that are coming out this year. Latu with the Colts, Dallas Turner with the Vikings, and Lisa Chop Robinson with the Dolphins. Yeah. I like all three of them. I think I like Chop, and then Dallas, and then Latu, kind of in that order. But it also could be the teams they're going to. What are you seeing with Chop down in Miami?
I'm seeing a mixed bag, which I think you expected this time. I think you're going to see him probably get smoked a couple times with veteran presence, and he did. You're going to see him learn, and we always preach on the show the same thing that coaches preach. You want to see improvement. You want to see you learn from the things that happen to you. And you saw it even through practice. A lot of them were saying that he's so quick. Even Tua kind of made a comment that, going up against him in practice, he learns very quickly. And that's what you want. You want this kid to grow. You want this kid to learn. And so he took advantage of every opportunity he had, which you love to see. And I was very optimistic when they took him. I'm like, okay, let's see how he does. And now it's kind of a excitement to see him because, we got Jalen Phillips coming back. Bradley Chubbs will be coming back probably game 3 or 4. He started the season on the PUP list, which, like Kate just said, sometimes that's not a bad thing. You give these guys the rest and you get them back by that 4th or 5th game. And those are the games that we've always preached, even Dana and I, that where your team is by 4 or 5, what you're kind of going, which direction. So he's very exciting. So it was, I think you got a mixed bag of exactly what you expected. And then some. I think he surprised a lot of people. A lot of fans down in Miami are excited about him now.
Yeah, I only saw one of their preseason games, and I thought of him more as a pass rusher, but I thought he did a nice job against the run.
Yeah.
That was surprising for me. For Dallas Turner, I think in the opening game, preseason game, he got 2 pressures. He actually got to the quarterback twice. That's it out of the 3 games he played out of 20 opportunities. But again, he's young. He's size-wise, he's good, but he's young. It's his introduction to the NFL, right? It's, I think, for both of these guys, any of the edge rushers that are coming out,
right,
trying to talk to them about the difference in speed between college and the NFL is not the same as even in preseason, that you're going up against speed that you're not. It's a whole different thing.
Techniques of these defensive guys that have to learn against the offensive line. You've got to get your spin moves. You got to get. I wish I'd paid attention. There was one game I was watching where I can't think of the guy's name, but he was a veteran. He was in for a couple of plays, but he had a nasty spin move, and he was going up against one of the offensive rookies. And I mean, that guy was standing there like he didn't know what was going on. He had that move. He was around that, and that rookie was like in space. And bam. And it's like, okay, those are the things. If you're an offensive rookie, you're going to learn. You're going to get.
You're going to learn, or you're going to get holding penalties.
Oh yeah, he was.
And I thought there would have been more. And I wonder if that's something the coaches are telling them is you're going to get beat.
Yeah.
Do not hold. Just trust your quarterback. Get rid of that ball and don't let them go. But at least once they're by you and you're at that point, you got to open your hands. So I was surprised at how few holding penalties I saw. But then again, I think the referees are just worried about the kicking game because that's still through that last week of preseason. They still seem to have an awful lot of huddles to talk about what the rules are with kicking. I have a cheat sheet that I'll be looking at when I'm watching games on what the kicking rules are because it's still confusing. But I mean, in general, we had quite a few rookies that are going to be playing on offensive lines this year. So we'll see how they do. They're learning quick.
I'm actually kind of excited to see that because there were so many offensive linemen that were so good that Lisa saw, especially at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think I think that's going to be fine because I like to watch those guys. The big ones in the middle. Those are fun ones to watch. And I mean,
Taylor Guyton for the Cowboys has a very nice presence, does a very nice job on pass protection for his quarterback, and Dak needs that. So he's one of the ones that I'm definitely going to be watching, especially since he'll be playing my Browns week 1.
Exactly.
The Cowboys always have such a great history of drafting linemen. They really do. I mean, everybody that first year they got the center And it was like, oh, you're picking a. Oh my God, he turned out to be a stud. I mean, it's just like it seems like Dallas just knocks it out of the park with linemen when they draft. It's crazy.
That is
I
always
and I see Camden talking about Byron Murphy. Yeah. You know, if you want to talk about Seahawks and have us pretend they're better than they are, you got to do that when Dana's here. Byron's all right, but don't be looking rookie defensive rookie of the year and our offensive rookie.
That's a shot.
Slow down. Give him a little time. Wait till week 6 before we start talking about goats, y'all.
Who's this quarter? No, I'm sorry.
mediocre Geno Smith.
Terrible.
Leave that Geno alone.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Next week's show, I'm gonna hype it now, Sonia, before we move on to the Pro Football Hall of Fame stuff. Next week, y'all are doing. Next week is the Pick'em next week, right? I'm actually in town for the Pick'em show the day after Labor Day. September 3rd is the Pick'em show. The one, the only, the best show of the year.
Day after Labor Day.
Day after Labor Day. And if you're
yes, it is.
We'll also give you a sneak preview that a year from now, we may be doing a live remote for our Pick'em show. So we may be doing quite a few of those this year. So you may have to keep an eye out for us.
You're going to be traveling with us.
We're
traveling.
Yes.
Traveling.
Oh.
And tomorrow, Sonia, what are we doing tomorrow?
What's going on tomorrow, guys?
Where my college players at?
We're excited. College edition. We're starting a Wednesday podcast talking about college football.
So all my college friends
sit back and be able to watch and join in the chat. I'm going to be in the chat chatting.
It will be Sonia and I and our good friends Michelle Jenks, even though she's a Cowboys diehard. We're going to be talking about all things college football on Wednesdays this year. So we're super excited to kind of expand when we're talking to y'all during the week and give you more opportunities to interact with us.
I totally I have visions. I have visions of Michelle with the big U behind her. You know, I have visions of her sitting in her studio. She's going to have a U. She'll have the U.
She's going to have an M. I'm going to have an O. It'll just be, we got 2 Big Tens to 1. What is that? SEC? We don't, we
ACC. SC,
whatever.
Don't knock
we did make a pact, Lisa, that, we're going to do a game of the week each week. We're going to put up some polls and let people pick the college game of the week. And then we're going to watch it and we're going to talk about it. It's not never. It will most likely never be the U, the Buckeyes, or the Wolverines. We're going to cover other teams. It's not just going to be me and Sonia talking about the Big Ten every week.
The game of the week this Saturday is going to be the Gators and the Canes, baby. That's the top.
If there's big games at the end of the year that we need to do, but we're going to try to introduce people to more than just the teams they already know about. There are a lot of very good college teams out there. And players that you're going to be looking at in the draft next year. And we might as well talk college football during the season.
Might as well. It's going to be 8 o'clock tomorrow, 8 p.m. tomorrow.
Yep. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Same bat time.
That's
same
Eastern
bat channel right here.
That's Eastern time, correct, ladies?
Eastern time, yes. Yes, I am time zone challenged. Like some people are colorblind. I'm time zone challenged. I can't do it. All my other girls are in the Central time. Like, just give me Eastern time. I can't do time zone math.
She's Eastern?
Are you Eastern again?
Yeah, baby girl, I'm Eastern.
All right, well then we rule. Okay.
Exactly. We've ruled.
Last topic for today. Pro Football Hall of Fame made some changes to the rules and the regulations. Sonia, you want to talk about the Belichick rule? I mean, the new rule that has absolutely nothing to do with Bill Belichick?
No, not at all. Why would it have anything to do with Bill Belichick? Hang on 1 second. I just have to answer this question. No.
No.
Okay.
I would also like to answer that question.
I would like to answer it too. No.
No.
Now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's go back.
If any of y'all think the answer is yes, I'm going to need you to message me on the Twitter, and then we're going to have you be a guest on the show next week and explain to all of us why he was worth $55 million, because he can't win a playoff game.
I want to see it. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame said that coaches can get in after 1 year being out. So they retire They get their year out, and then they can go straight to the Hall of Fame. Because Bill Belichick
Now,
did
it used
not
to be 5
influence
years.
that rule.
Used to be 5 years.
Yes,
And it used to be 5. And I think part of that is, and as we've seen, a coach will leave one team, he'll take a year off, maybe 2, and then he'll pop back up somewhere else. And I would submit, if they can now get into the Hall, after a year, if they can get into the Hall of Fame, if they do get into the Hall of Fame, they don't get to come back and coach again. That's Kate's rule. You can't just take a year off to see if you can get in. And then if you don't get in, that would be more likely, right? If Belichick doesn't get in this year, I would think he'd be more inclined to go back to coaching, because he's going to be like, I didn't get as many wins as Don Shula. I need one more season. I think he needs, 3 seasons, Lisa? At least with the Patriots, he'd need 3 or 4 more seasons to get to.
I differ. I like the rule. I can't lie. I like it. And I'll tell you why I like it. I'll tell you 2 reasons. I like it because, when you look at owners, Jerry Jones in the Hall of Fame, he still owns the Cowboys. I mean, you see a lot of the other coaches like Don they have to wait. With Bill and the way the coaching system goes now, it's easy for you to coach 10 years with one team and then go to another team. Okay. And then, maybe you're going to coach, because when you look at Bill, if you think if he ends up, let's say he goes to the Dallas Cowboys after this year. Okay. And ends up going 3 or 4 years, he'll be almost 79, 80 years old at the time. So you're looking at him possibly going into the Hall of Fame when he was 85. So at that, I think when they're thinking about that, it's like you kind of would like that coach to enjoy it with his family. You would kind of like it. So I can kind of see it in a way. Mike Tomlin, the same thing. I mean, he's been coaching Pittsburgh forever. Anything happened, I don't see Mike not getting on with another team in a couple years, but yet he's Hall of Fame worthy.
Oh, I think he is too. Andy Reid. I mean, we can talk about a lot of these guys, and I'm a huge fan of the senior committee. They wait too long to get some of these guys in.
Right.
And you risk them having health issues. So I don't mind that, but I feel like there should also be a conversation with Bill. Are you seriously done playing? You should have are you retired as a coach? Or do you think you're going to come back? Because I just think it's weird.
I see it different for coaches than I do a player. I see it different for coaches than a player, because I see it like an owner. I mean, Jerry Jones got in. A lot of the other owners are in.
Is he in as an owner, or is he in as a contributor?
He's a contributor, I think.
You know what I mean? Because they're trying to get Art Modell in as a contributor for his efforts on the league, combining the leagues and Monday Night Football, and Over My Dead Body, will he be allowed in? But that's different.
Look at Jerry. Show. Let's use Jerry. Let's say Jerry, how you rate owners. That's what I'm saying. Jerry's going to own the Cowboys until he passes away, right? So it's like he'll never see the Hall of Fame then if they had to wait, if there was some kind of conjunction. So with coaches, I just feel with the way it changes. Now, I think we're all kidding ourselves. Of course, this is in because of Bill, because they want to get Bill in as soon as possible. That's obvious. I just wish they would have done it earlier. I think it would have benefited a lot of other coaches, that could have been in. I have no problem, Kate, with them coaching again, being in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I see it differently than a player. I just do. I don't. The player, I agree that they should wait a little bit, because that gives you time to reflect on other players that might have the same kind of, gives it a little bit of a buffer time to reflect on that player and the numbers and stuff like that, and the contributions that he's done to his team. Where a coach,
I don't disagree, but I'm thinking hard about Mike Tomlin. I just feel like he's too young. But I get it. I just find it very I find it very coincidental that they make this rule when Bill's been out of the league for a year.
Agreed.
Big Red.
I think if they do this, Big Red, I think that they need to bring the players down to 5. My thoughts.
The players are at 5.
They're at 7.
Are they at 7? Oh, they should bring it down to 5. But but my answer to Big Red would be that it because you have other players that are so worthy that have been waiting, that I think that that they should wait a little bit just to reflect it,
And then you have players who, especially quarterbacks, who will sit out a year, come out of retirement after a year or two, and then show up. How many years did Joe Flacco sit at home? I mean, he might have been on the Jets roster, but he wasn't really playing. You could have more of that with players. Ultimately, I think if your career is good enough to get you in, it should be 1 year for everybody. And if you get in and then you come back and play some more, then that's on you. But I think you won me over, Lisa, if your body of work is good enough. But I also agree with you. I think that you're right. That 7-year buffer is to give them time to get some more people in.
Right. And I like that with the players. I mean, I wouldn't mind dropping to 5. I think that would still be fair.
Yeah.
But like I said, I just don't see, I don't have a problem with, like I said, I think it probably should have been something they should have done a couple of years ago instead of making it so obvious. But, I kind of listen to several of the points and kind of get what they're saying. I really do. I kind of, get, I mean, everybody in the whole world knows Bill Belichick's a Hall of Fame coach. There's just, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Did they kind of talk about this because of him? Of course it does. But you always need a trailblazer, right? Obviously. So, he's just going to trailblaze it for coaches and stuff like that. So, like I said, it'd be kind of nice to, look, I got a Hall of Fame coach coaching my team. I got a Hall of Fame coach. So, I don't know. I don't have a problem with it. I see what everybody's saying, that obviously it was made. But yeah, but like I said, when you look at Bill's longevity of, taking a year off and wanting to come back to coach, and then maybe 3 or 4 more years, then like I said, he'd be 85 years old. So it's like...
Yeah. So they've also split up the coaching and the contributors into 2 different categories. They used to be players and then kind of non-players. And then I think media, there were some media people who had their own. But now coaches and contributors are 2 separate categories.
Right.
Theoretically, you could have Bill Belichick and Art Modell in the same class, whatever. One of the other change that I really liked is there are now 2 11-member committees who review all the eligible candidates before putting them out to voting, which gives you another group of people to talk about it, to really talk about the best of the best. And I think this year was an example with Randy Gradishar being in. He's the first member of Denver Broncos' vaunted Orange Crush. So many of y'all are too young to remember those days back in the 70s. I think it's good to look at some of those iconic teams, the Purple People Eaters, the Orange Crush, those kind of things, the Legion of Boom, and say, all right, who else in that group contributed? He can't be the only one from that line. And so that's one of the things that these 2 other committees will do, is look at not just the players that are eligible, but their relationship to other players that are in, and how they have the same body of work. They just don't have the flashy name. And we'll see, I think, sort of some depth, if you will, in the names that we're going to see in the Hall of Fame in the next few years.
Big Red's coming with some great questions tonight. Is there an automatic disqualifier for induction? That's a really
Yes. If you move your team out of one city into another city, you're not allowed in.
She said it, y'all. She said it.
Sports betting against your team and playing, maybe.
I don't know that's a rule for baseball. I don't know that's a rule for football. I'll have to look and see if there are disqualifications. I know, to answer his other question, you can get in multiple categories. So John Elway could get in as a player, could get in as a GM. Now, I would argue with anyone who thinks his body of work is worthy of being in the Hall of Fame.
I was going to say, if somebody votes him as
up that team, but theoretically, he
could
get in as both.
Yeah.
You have some coaches that played that might be, you could see some of that in the upcoming years as some of these former players that have done other things. They could get in both categories.
And that brings up a good thing with the Hall of Fame, because we talked about this before when we were talking about old bus, when they make the picture, of them when they're older. And what I called it caught the end of an interesting conversation the other day on Sirius FM was the generations gaps now that we're seeing between the 70s, 80s, and the 90s and up, about new sports reporters, people that have votes and stuff like that, to where they don't remember the games like we do. They weren't even born yet. They didn't even, like the drive, the fumble, all those types of history games. And I think they were talking about like the buffer. Big Red was asked that question about why. Because I think if you became somebody eligible, you have popularity, you have, everything. So I think that cools a lot of that down, and you get to reflect on some of those guys from those. There's still guys from late 70s, 80s games that belong in the Hall of Fame that are getting forgotten because they're just getting, pile drive by the new generation of players. And so, I like that.
The ESPN era and, Devin Hester making the highlight reels and all of those kind of things. And you're right, Lisa, those players from the 70s and 80s didn't make highlight reels. They're not names that everybody knows. So I think that's where having these two committees look at some of these older time frames, not just for senior candidates, but even for some of the other ones. This year when we were talking to, can't think of his name, we're talking about the Colts. Peyton Manning's in. Marvin Harrison Sr.'s in, right? But Reggie Wayne's not in yet. There are like other members of that team. You look at some of those Steelers Super Bowl teams of the 70s.
Right.
I think the Dolphins are pretty well represented for their Super Bowl run, but there are quite a few people that were on some of those big teams that I think will have a shot at getting in. I found 6 different articles about qualifications to get in the Hall of Fame, and there's not a single thing that limits you. Are there any standards for the Hall of Fame induction or criteria that would exclude you? And it says the answer is simple. There are none.
Yeah.
I find that very interesting. And it is 5 years for players now. So it's 5 years.
So, yeah. Okay. So
good.
That's so.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't have.
And I'm going to answer this last Big Red question. Nope.
Winning a championship should not be a qualifier.
Big Red's getting on my nerves just a little bit tonight. Big Red getting on my nerves just a little bit tonight.
Picking on the Dolphins.
Why you got to throw hate on Marino for? Best perfect passer in the NFL.
I would argue that they should add a new category in some form for an entire team.
Oh, Jesus.
The 84 Bears, I'm not saying you give the gold
Bears
jacket to everyone on the team, but it's not always the Super Bowl winner, or maybe it's not every Super Bowl winner, but there are some teams that were just special. And so I would like to see a wall in the hall of just some of those, the 72 Dolphins, that
should be number one. That should be your number one team.
Number one, and everyone else is chasing it. Yep. But I'd like to see some recognition for a team, because there are a lot of men who are on those teams and contributed to those teams that they don't have the body of work to get in, but they were a vital part of that team.
So once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, once you're in, you're in. Somebody asked about Frank Gore. He was on a roster in 2020. He isn't eligible until next year. I know it feels like he hadn't played in a long time, but he was on rosters until 2020.
Yeah, because he was on the Bills roster. He was on the
Bills, Colts. He was with the Jets. So he spent 15 years on an NFL roster. He just needs another year, and then he'll be eligible for next year, I think.
I don't think he's a first timer, do you?
Who, Frank Gore?
It all depends on who else is available.
Interesting.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
I think he'll be a first or second. Does he get in first, or we can get into that later.
Yeah. I forgot what college Frank Gore went to. What was that?
I want to say Syracuse, but I don't think that's right. That's always my answer for everything.
From the U.
Syracuse. He was an orange man.
He's from the U, baby.
What was that? Are you sure?
Oh, absolutely.
I know every time, Sonia, Lisa says, I wonder what college he went to. The answer's always. She's like a lawyer. She doesn't ask a question if she doesn't already know the answer.
That's it.
And for Lisa, the answer is always to you. All right, Sonia, wrap us up.
Guys, been a pleasure, as always, Tuesday nights. Lisa, Kate, thank you. Camden, Kristen, Big Red, Darcy.
Big Red's disqualified from next week's show.
Big Red is not disqualified. Big Red, you come back. You come back, Big Red.
He can, but he can't
Thank
ever
y'all
again
so
ask about
much.
referees getting into the Hall of Fame. Not
Oh,
happening.
jeez.
I should know who those people are. I should know their names. They should be invisible.
What's the guns? Ed
Hockley.
He's a Hall
Ed
of
Hockley's
Famer.
biceps can get in the Hall of Fame. I will start that campaign. I will start that Twitter account.
Oh my gosh,
you agree with that.
Y'all are a mess. But anyway, so we will see you all tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern,
right here, 8 p.m.
same
Eastern.
bat time, same bat place. Get your college colors out. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Yeah, and then we'll see you back next week on Tuesday for our Pick'em show. All right, you guys, take care. See you later.
Bye.
And trash talking will be allowed in the comments, right, tomorrow?
Yes.